What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another BRAP rant. I don't even know where. Well, I don't even know where to begin. Well, actually, I do. Let's officially kick off the show right now. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another BRAP rant. This one has been cooking for a little bit, this rant, if you will. What's going on, Mario Heat? Big shout out to everyone who's listening to us live. This is a very impromptu BRAP rant. I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat. Please let everyone know that we're live. And I just don't know where to begin. If you've been listening to the show for quite some time, we try to have a different conversation here on BRAP. We don't do the whole console war thing. We try to have conversations around the gaming industry, the business aspects of the gaming industry, certain market trends that are happening. And a lot of those conversations are going to be based on data points, right? They're going to be based on, they're going to be based on data. They're going to be, they are, get your feelings out. Yeah, I mean, I thank you, Glace. That's funny. But no, a lot of the conversation that we have is just a bit more nuanced. Our platform is not for everyone. We understand that. That's why we have almost 4,000 subs. The conversations that we have here seem to appeal to a smaller subset of the gaming community. People out there, we don't partake in rage culture or the meme culture, if you will. That's just not what we do here. We tend to have a mature conversation, if you will, around video games. Hey, what's going on, Ice Queen Gaming? And so if you're looking for those kind of nuanced conversations where we discuss industry trends that we're seeing based on data from Circana, from the financial reports that the platform owners release on a quarterly basis. If you are looking for conversations and getting perspectives of people who are financial analysts as guests, we have David Faulkner on Falky. He is a financial analyst. He knows and understands the financial reporting aspects or understands financial reporting, I should say. Is able to break down the numbers, understands them, provide a nuance that not many people have in this industry. And if you've listened to the show, we have had guests on, the late, great, rest in peace, Optimus Code, who was a video game developer at one point in his career. He understood the nuances of the industry. He understood how development works. We have other people who are part of this panel who are technology professionals who work retail in the gaming industry, who have a lot of insight into the industry, know people in the industry, and talk to people in the industry. And we have people who have managed P&L centers on this panel as well, and understand software development, engineering, and everything that goes into that, the business aspect of software development. So, and I only bring that up, and then there's me. I bring the entertainment and jokes. But no, I mean, all jokes aside. So I bring that up because this is the kind of conversation that we're having here. We're not here to console war. We do opine on things, but we don't try to push or present our opinions in a way as they are in fact facts. And usually those opinions are based on Our I'll speak for myself. My interpretation of some kind of data point, or I may look at a trend based on a data point, and I may opine on where I think that trend is going to take the industry and things like that. So again, just a different type of conversation. We're not here to win a console war, which is ridiculous. But there are a lot of content creators out there that do that. And that's just not us. So if that's the kind of content you're looking for, you've certainly come to the right place. Now, I do want to bring, I'm going to share a video clip here. This is Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick's channel. And again, look, I just want to just be clear about this. This isn't an attack on Mr. Boomstick. I just don't think I don't think he really, and I don't know if he does the research. I should say, I don't think he does the research, because I think if he really studied the industry, really understood the nuances of the industry, if he maybe took the time to speak to developers or people who understands finance, or maybe got Falky on the show. I'll plug Falky in there. Maybe he wants to bring Falky on there, and Falky can discuss the financial aspects of things with him. It's just unfortunate. I feel like with some of the commentary more recently, like he is doing more harm than good in driving these false narratives, which really at the end of the day just fuel the console war. And it's why it's why we stay away from those things. Why we have a different conversation here on this show. It's crazy I have to repeat this. I mean, yes, I mean, people always point out, oh, you guys are so negative on Xbox. And I'm like, well, I mean, like, look, I mean, the news is the news as it relates to Xbox, and the data is the data as it relates to Xbox. They're in third place. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, they've had issues with managing the production pipeline. These are tangible things that we can measure on how they've had issues with their production pipeline. We've had, and I'll talk about this, there's people out there who feel misled by Phil Spencer. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. And that goes back to some of the messaging and issues. And this isn't a new issue with messaging, by the way. There are examples, tangible examples of some of the mixed messaging. And so when you compare and contrast the behaviors and the performance of the Xbox division to, like, let's say Nintendo and Sony, then you see why it's not so much that it's purposely being negative about Xbox, because we can compare and contrast the behavior and the performance of the Xbox to PlayStation and Sony, and you just don't see those issues there. And not to say that Sony hasn't done anything wrong and Nintendo hasn't done anything wrong. Sony has a very archaic refund policy. You guys may have heard me talk about it here on this show, where I was like, F you, Sony, and I have not turned on my PlayStation 5 because of just bad customer service on PlayStation's part and the archaic anti-consumer refund policies they have. Look, Nintendo's not perfect. They have a very archaic way of just squeezing pennies out of their consumers. Now, it's also the consumer's fault because they support some of the archaic practices that Nintendo engages with on their platform. But nonetheless, I mean, the point is, none of these companies are perfect. But if you're going to say that we're purposely picking on Xbox, frankly, there just isn't a lot to talk about as it relates to PlayStation and Nintendo, because those are healthier business models. Do they have issues? Absolutely. They just don't have a lot of the issues and aren't in this paradigm shift with their business model the way Microsoft is, Xbox is. And so that's why we tend to talk about Xbox. And I think, at least for me, it's a fascinating case study. The Xbox businesses to kind of see, because I've been on the Xbox platform for 20 years. I was an Xbox Live beta tester. Xbox was my primary gaming console platform until last generation, where I switched, where the PlayStation 4 became my primary console of choice. And then now my primary gaming platform is PC. And Microsoft helped kind of push me in that direction, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But anyhow, but yeah, I want to play this clip here. And this is on the heels of the announcement that Indiana Jones is going to be coming to PlayStation 5. excuse me here, coming to PlayStation 5. Give me a sec here. All right, sorry about that. I had to fix some audio issues here, um, but yeah, this comes on the heels of Indiana Jones being announced to PlayStation 5, which I thought again was awkward. It was a little weird. I The timing of it. Not that I'm surprised that Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation, as much as I'm surprised that they announced it so soon. But I think that leads to something here, that they're kind of dipping their toes. I mean, not so much dipping their toes. I think they are. I think these sudden announcements, he's like, whoa. I think they're just slowly prepping people for other, at least in my opinion. Notice I said my opinion, and I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just saying my opinion, unlike another content creator, which we'll share here. But at least in my opinion, I think that they may be, because of the way this was announced. I think like it was very sudden, right? Typically, what we see is you get a game that's, if it's timed exclusive, it's exclusive, has the appearance of exclusive, and then you'll catch wind of the game releasing on other platforms at a later date, but not before the game releases. At least that I haven't seen that in previous timed exclusive deals, and this is why this seems each. But I do think that in my opinion that they are trying to get people, or getting the Xbox fan base used to this idea, like, yeah, like more stuff's coming, right? And it's going to be on PlayStation, and it may be a day and date situation on PlayStation too. It may make sense for them. I mean, if you look at the financials, right? We talked about the last quarterly reporting. We've talked about on this show, Xbox having 42% decline in hardware, in hardware per their last quarter, and Amy Hood actually mentioned the previous quarter that would be the case, that they were expecting even more declines. She said even more declines the next quarter, which that's what they were projecting, and that projection was correct. But oh wow, Bender Strings! I was actually watching that game earlier, Georgia Tech and Florida State. They're playing in Dublin right now, but you look at you look at the, and this is just I just want to mention this too. I just let's go back to what the model of the console hardware, or the business model for console hardware has always been. You sell your hardware at very razor thin profit margins, and then you make that up in software sales and licensing. Like that's been the thing, right? There's other revenue streams that are built into hardware now. It's not just selling software; it's subscription services, microtransactions. Sony gets a 30% cut of third-party software sales on their platform, and of course, they get the whole 100% as well. They get 30% on microtransactions, so they get a piece. The hardware, and this is what some content creators are forgetting: the hardware is a conduit for revenue. It's like it is the thing that, and this is what people don't understand, is that for PlayStation and Nintendo, those are very successful business models for them. And for Microsoft, it hasn't been. And again, how do I know that it hasn't been successful? Well, look at their declining hardware sales, and they're also coming from declining hardware, where you got to remember, last generation they lost market share in comparison to the Xbox 360, and now this console generation they are behind the Xbox One. So what does that tell us? Tells us that they're losing market share. They're having a hard time selling hard consoles. And again, I mean, we know this because this is the performance of the hardware is actually something that's reported by Microsoft themselves. So it's not like we're making this stuff up. So when you look at that, right, when you look at the ability to sell hardware in the console business, right, that we talked about the console business, the traditional console business, where you sell hardware at razor thin margins, and then you make it up in software sales. That 30% cut you get from third-party sales, from microtransactions, from any other purchase, or like you purchase a movie or something, anything you're doing in that ecosystem, within that hardware, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox are all getting a piece of the action, and those are other revenue streams. So when those revenue streams aren't growing because you're not selling hardware, which makes it harder for you to sell more software, and you invested all this money in first-party studios, that money is not free. It needs to be made up. Amy Hood, people joke around, she wants her money back. She does. And this is why Microsoft, based on their financial performance, we know this because we've seen their financials. We hear them vocalize their strategy. They say when gamers can play everywhere, everyone wins. I forget what the slogan is. But what they're telling us, and then and by evidence of the 4, or was really 5 games that eventually came to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch earlier this year. Now you're seeing Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation 5. They're doing these things because they were having issues with selling hardware. When you can't sell hardware, you can't sell enough software. Game Pass hasn't. In my opinion, I don't think Game Pass has grown to the point that they thought it might grow. And this isn't a subscription. The Game Pass subscription growth has kind of stalled. And this isn't just Game Pass, by the way. Matt Piscatella of Circana had mentioned a few months ago that subscription services in general in the gaming industry, that's PlayStation Plus, Game Pass, the EA subscription service on PC, Ubisoft subscription service on PC, those things have stalled out. So couple that with the big cash acquisition of ABK, that ate into about half of their cash reserves. And David Falke, as we call him, explained how much cash companies like Microsoft need on hand I think he said to keep to essentially keep the lights on. But and so they spent a lot of money, and so now it's like they need to sell software, they need to drive these revenue streams that they have in place to recoup that investment. And if you look at the people, someone mentioned this earlier in the week that said we shouldn't discount or separate ABK from the rest of the Xbox business when we're discussing financials. Well, yes, we can actually do that. One, because I think it's good to get an understanding of the financial impact of ABK on the Xbox business, and also look at how the Xbox business is growing minus ABK. And what we saw last financial quarter is that, and it's going to be interesting to see if this trend holds. Or if this becomes a trend. But it was at -4%. The Xbox growth is at -4%. So, when the bean counters are looking at that, and they've spent $70 billion in cash. I mean, and I can tell you, I know this because I've been in those meetings with those bean counters, and they're seeing negative growth in one area. There are some tough questions, and there are some things that the bean counters are asking and putting pressure on the business to look at either cutting headcount, which often happens. One of the things that often happens first, or figuring out how to drive new revenue streams to offset that negative growth, or that negative decline. So I mean, I'm not surprised by Microsoft or Xbox wanting to put their games on more platforms, because they need to leverage the high install bases of Nintendo and PlayStation to start increasing the rest of the Xbox business outside of ABK. ABK cannot be the only P&L center that is maintaining growth for the Xbox division, because if the rest of the Xbox division is negative and continues to be negative, that's going to start eating into the profit margins of ABK, and that's not what they want to do. They didn't acquire ABK to start losing profitability because of the other parts of the business aren't financially healthy. So anyhow, sorry for the rant there, but I felt like that's important to bring up again, so that people kind of get a bit more of a nuanced perspective and understanding of how we look at Microsoft's transition here, and why and why they're doing it, right? Why is Microsoft transitioning over to more of a third-party publisher. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way. I think if it's healthy for their business, so be it. I think Microsoft has a lot of valuable IP. Clearly, they do, and they have they own some of the biggest IPs in the industry. And so, I think Microsoft can be a very big third-party publisher, and they may be okay with that. And I don't see them exiting hardware right now. I could see them maybe at some point doing that. I just don't see that because I don't know if they're willing to. Like, where would those Game Pass subscribers on console go? Like, that's the question. Like you don't want to lose that revenue, right? If you have 30 million Game Pass subscribers, I can't imagine you want to. I don't think, at least I wouldn't, if I'm running the Xbox division, which I wouldn't want to have that job, by the way, because Phil looks like he's tired. But I don't imagine they will. But you never know. I mean, never say never. I don't think they will. But as Game Logic has brought up on this show and in conversations I've had with him, he was a Windows Phone owner. He says this eerily feels like Windows Phone. And we know how that ended. But again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I still think Xbox will make console hardware. It'll be more of a boutique product, kind of like their Surface line of products. So, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, clearly there's, like Falky said, there's like 35 million people out there who are willing to buy Xboxes. And like Falky said, that's not a number that's still a significant number. And so I don't see them getting away from that unless the math just doesn't math anymore, where the business is so upside down that it just doesn't make financial sense for them to R&D hardware and then and not just R&D hardware, but then produce hardware and sell it retail, until that formula changes where that math doesn't math anymore for them. I don't see them getting out of it, because because again, as I mentioned with PlayStation, with Xbox, if they stop producing hardware and selling hardware, then they're losing out those potential Game Pass subscribers. Where do those people go? And then they're losing, that 30% cut we talked about of software sales from third-party publishers that they get from the Xbox and the microtransactions and all the other things that people do buy on those platforms. So, but anyhow, I want to play this video clip here. Give me just a second here. I need to pull this up. Let me see something here. Hopefully you guys can't hear the kids yelling in the background here. All right, let's see here. All right, here we go. This is the video clip I want to make. By the way, everyone, please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. If you do, consider subscribing, hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. By the way, also, remember, we have the new BRAP VIP tier. The BRAP VIP tier at $3 a month gives you access to a monthly giveaway or the opportunity to be chosen as a winner for our monthly giveaway. We'll be doing our monthly giveaway this Wednesday night. So, all right, so let me play this. Let me get this clip going here. All right, so this is a clip from Mr. Boomstick Show, where he is criticizing Jeff Keighley, Phil Spencer for how they handle Indiana Jones. He also makes a claim that Sony will be following suit here. So let me play that here real quick.
We're living in a world where cost has gone up everywhere, and unfortunately, things are going to start changing in the industry.
All right, so I want to address the costs of going up everywhere. This is kind of a talking point that I hear, especially now they're in the United States, that we are in the midst of a presidential election. The reality is costs are actually going down now. So I don't know where Boom is getting his information that costs have gone up everywhere. Just look at the latest economic numbers, inflation dipping below 3%. Consumer, the CPI, I believe it's called, Consumer Pricing Index, has gone down as well a bit. Grocery prices are kind of leveling off now. But in terms of like everywhere, like no Boom, like costs are actually on the decline. So this is the oh my God, nobody needs this platform. What a comment. No, but I mean, this is the part that frustrates me a bit when I say we need to have more nuance here. Like Boom, like you need to flesh this comment out. It's a bit misleading. It's not entirely accurate based on recent economic data. Like you need to cite those things. Like if it's going up everywhere, how, where, what does everywhere mean? What sectors are you specifically speaking to? Gaming? Well, no shit if it's gaming, because the video game development, the cost of gaming development goes up everywhere. But he also negates the fact, if he is speaking about gaming, that even while the cost of gaming development has gone up, publishers and third-party publishers, developers and third-party publishers, are still making expensive games because those games still sell. If you don't believe me, look at the latest Circana NPD, and you will see what I'm referring to. Many AAA games are typically at the top of the best-selling games of the year, and often are in the top 10, top 20 of Circana here in the U.S. So again, I right off the bat, I'm like, okay, Boom, you need to flesh that out a bit, and one, you need to cite like what data are you getting this from? Like costs everywhere. It's not an accurate statement. And like just take the time to research it. That's all. All right, let me play the video again. The rest of it, let me play.
Sony is going to be here, whether it's next year. We're going to start changing in the industry. Sony is.
Let me go back to this. Let me rewind here.
Unfortunately, things are going to start changing in the industry. Sony is going to be here. Things are going to start changing in the industry. Sony is going to be here, whether it's next year or the following year. They will be putting their first-party games and their bangers on.
All right, let me play this from the start again.
We're living in a world where cost has gone up everywhere, and unfortunately, things are going to start changing in the industry. Sony is going to be here, whether it's next year or the.
So it sounds like he is saying his maybe he isn't speaking to inflation, but he's saying costs is going to everywhere. That may be a reference to, because he says things are changing in the industry. He may be implying here that the development costs in the industry are going up. That's not inaccurate. That's actually true. But I would also caveat that, Boom, with the fact that the cost of development goes up every console generation. So this isn't a new phenomenon. And I often see people act like, oh, well, development's so expensive now. Well, it is. I mean, but development every generation gets more expensive because you're dealing with newer hardware, developing newer game engines. The cost of human capital gets expensive every generation. I mean, that's just a natural cycle of things when you're hiring people. Salaries do increase. We know that like if you look at what's happening here in the U.S., salaries have been for the last couple of months outpacing salary growth, at least here in the U.S. has been outpacing inflation. And if you don't believe me, you can look up those numbers. You can do a quick Google search. So he may be referring to that. But again, this isn't a new phenomenon, Boom. This is every generation, every new generation, console generation, where the cost of development goes up. So and by the way, Mary, if anyone's coming here with DEI nonsense, please feel free to block them. We that's something else we don't do here. All right, let me play the video again.
the following year, they will be putting their first party games and their bangers on PlayStation, on PC, and of course on Xbox, because they want to make money as well. They're going to look and they're going to see how much money is coming in from Indiana.
All right. He's saying that because of the changing dynamics in the industry, talks about rising costs. Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about that. The cost of development goes up every generation. This is a trend that happens, right? Sony's been developing games since the mid 90s or mid to late 90s. So Sony is fully aware of this. And you may say, well, why is that? Well, because they've been in the gaming business for almost 30 years, about 30 years. Nintendo too, because they've been in the gaming business for a long time. All right. And he's saying that that Sony, in fact, is going to go this way. Let me play this clip again.
They want to make money as well. They're going to look on PlayStation, bang, here. They will be putting their first party games and their bangers on PlayStation, on PC, and of course.
He's saying they will put their first party games and bangers on PC, on Xbox. And, based on what? that's what I'm trying to understand here. He's making a definitive statement here that in fact this is going to happen. And I said, look, this is just spreading misinformation, disinformation, and completely skates by everything we know about the health of the PlayStation business. What the PlayStation leadership has said is their priority in terms of keeping the PlayStation console at the core of their business, the core of the ecosystem. They want to try to figure out ways to funnel people in to the PlayStation 5 or future PlayStation consoles. They've talked about this. I'm trying to understand the business case here by Boomstick that they are in fact going to do this. Let me play the clip again.
Of course, on Xbox, because they want to make money as well. They're going to look and they're going to see how much money is coming in from Indiana Jones and from Sea of Thieves and all the other games that are there currently. You're going to.
All right. So a couple things here. So Boom is saying that they want to make more money, which the show companies want to make more money. But here's the difference. Here's what Boom is discounting. Every company, Nintendo, you look at Nintendo's revenue margins, like Nintendo's revenue. And this is funny. Every time we have this conversation, Nintendo is actually never included in this conversation. They make video games too, guys. they have exclusive games as well, but they never include Nintendo because I question how genuine this conversation really is when it is solely about PlayStation. And when they purposely exclude Nintendo, because Nintendo, again, has they're a platform owner. They do sell first party games. Are you saying that Nintendo doesn't like money? And I bring up Nintendo too, because each company, right? You look at Nintendo, they nearly don't make as much revenue as Sony does. But Nintendo's business model, their financial objectives are different than Sony's. Companies have different financial objectives, goals than other companies, and PlayStation has their own financial goals, their own financial objectives that leadership has defined internally for their PlayStation business. And part of that is, look, we need to sell first party games. These games need to make money, and here are the profit targets for these games, the revenue targets. And so long as we hit those revenue targets and those profit targets, we're good. Okay. That's how businesses work. That's how and I'm giving a very generic explanation of this point. But my point is that they have their own, as Logic likes to put, their own OKRs, and each company's OKR is going to be different from one company to another. And he's not even understanding that point. He's trying to he's trying to make a business case for Sony without actually, I think, understanding Sony's business model, and understanding how companies also could have, he's discounting how companies have different objectives. Is my point, and we know that. And also, he's also discounting the fact that Sony putting PlayStation games, first party games, on Xbox is counterintuitive to what Sony's own business objectives are for the PlayStation brand. That is to drive people to the PlayStation 5 console. They don't want people on Xbox to play their games on Xbox. They want you, if you're on Xbox, to come to PlayStation to play those experiences. So it doesn't make it because it's not just the one-off sale, by the way. And this is where I don't think he maybe understands how the traditional console business works. But it's not just the one-off and getting extra money, because they're doing that on the PC side. See, they don't view PC as, they look at PC as another way. It's just an additive, right? We're going to do PC games as an additive revenue once we have recouped our initial investment on the PlayStation, right? And the other thing that I think he's not addressing as well is that, what are the challenges? And I was be careful what I say here. I'll just say, someone who works in the industry had said to me that one of that a potential challenge for some developers is, as it relates to Game Pass, is that you're competing with Game Pass. And basically it was explained that, and that's funny because I think Logic has said this too on the show. But I heard this from somebody in the industry. I won't say who it was. I can't, but basically, like, look, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it may be a good thing for all publishers, because you're basically competing with Game Pass when you release your game in there, because you have a subset of that consumer base on that platform who probably isn't going to buy your game. They're probably just going to wait for it to go on Game Pass. And look, as a consumer, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to wait for a game to go on Game Pass, and that's how you choose to consume video games, then so be it. But I think that's something else he's not thinking about here. But again, the other point he's missing out too is there's additional cost and resources to build a game like God of War and port it over to Xbox. Like if he's saying, and I don't think he says if it's like day and date, but there's additional money there, and so it probably just doesn't make sense for them, because they want people to go from Xbox to buy a PlayStation 5, because Xbox is actually you're talking about the console consumer here. They don't want those console consumers on the Xbox side of things to sit put and buy their games there. And frankly, they don't need to, because their games sell. If you go back to what I said earlier about the console business model, you sell your hardware at very low margins, you make it up in software sales, right? This has been my argument of why I don't think they'll go day and date on PC. I could be wrong. You never know. Things change. Sometimes the math doesn't math anymore, and you have to pivot as a business. But I think one of the reasons why they're not doing PC day and date with their first party games is because they want people to get exposure to PlayStation in hopes that those people will come over to PlayStation 5. They also understand that consumer base on PC is a bit different than console. But anyhow, so that's. Oh, let me get the super chat, by the way. Street Shadow with a $10 super chat says the issue with this type of take is not taking into account PlayStation as a console market league. So at most, they only need to push PC, which they are doing, and that's That's a great point, Trisha. That was going to say, like, they're the market leader. They don't need Xbox. They sell plenty of software, and this is why at a very basic level, you should understand this: that they don't need Xbox. They are the market leader. They don't have issue selling software, and that's it. So I don't know why he's saying this is going to happen. When we look at the health of the PlayStation business, we know it's a healthy business model for PlayStation as it stands today. If you don't believe me, go back to, I think it was June or July, maybe it was June, or maybe it was May, when Sony came out and said that the PlayStation 5 has been their most profitable PlayStation generation to date. Think about that for a second. Most profitable PlayStation generation to date. So if and he talks about rising costs, and I'm assuming he's trying to tie in rising costs as a causality, and one of the causalities as to why they'll bring their games onto Xbox. But he's also not taking into account that how healthy the PlayStation business model is, and based on that health, they don't need Xbox. They don't need to put their games on Xbox. They want people to sell their Xboxes and come over to PlayStation 5 because they view Xbox as a competitor. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just their ability to sell software for Sony, right? They don't have that issue the way Xbox does. So again, they don't need to bring their first party games to Xbox to make more money. Because they may be missing out if they do that on people coming into the PlayStation 5 ecosystem. And what do people do when they're in the PlayStation 5 ecosystem? They spend money. They spend money. I said money. They spend money on software, microtransactions. Guess who gets a cut of that? Sony does. 30%. Sony also has the ability to sell these people accessories. Look at the DualSense Edge. Look at the PlayStation. Oh God, what the hell's the name of the PlayStation mobile? The mobile device. Why am I drawing a blank here? Hold on. What is it? The PlayStation. Why am I forgetting this? The PlayStation Portal. Jesus. Thank you, Sam. Oh my gosh. I'm getting old. So think about that. So now it's very, very. You've heard us talk about this on this show. Very Apple-esque, right? The PlayStation Portal. They could sell you that. They could sell you the headsets, right? The new earbuds that they have out. They could sell you the DualSense Edge. They could sell you different color, special edition color sets of the PlayStation DualSense controller. They could sell you the Pulse 3D headsets. They could sell you the Pulse Elite gaming headset. So this is another way for them to drive additional revenue through the purchase of the PlayStation 5 hardware. It is a conduit for revenue, for profitability. Putting games on Xbox is counterintuitive to their strategy to do that. At the very least, he should understand this, and it's mind-boggling to me why he would say that. And I know I heard him. He said something to the effect that he was saying this. It was his opinion. But look, we're not going to excuse ignorance. We're not going to excuse ignorance here. On the premise that it was just an opinion. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. There should be some level of accountability here when we're having these conversations. Like you can't make a definitive statement like that. Say that it's going to happen when in fact we have evidence, we have data that shows that that's counterintuitive to the business, and that is likely not going to happen. All right, let me finish playing the video here.
You're going to see. They're going to want a piece of that pie. So it's happening. It's just not happening right now. And so, of course, Xbox looks like the bad guy. Now, here's the thing, folks. And I want this to be clear. The issue at hand.
He's saying they're going to see all the money that that Xbox is making off of PlayStation, right? I mean, he's saying that. He's saying that Sony's going to see all the money. Oh yes, PSVR 2. Thank you. There we go, Priscilla. It's another accessory that they can try to sell you. So Boom is saying that, hey, you know what? Sony's going to see all the money that Microsoft's making on Indiana Jones by selling it on PlayStation. What he is discounting here is that Sony also gets a 30% cut of that, which means the difference between Xbox first party going on PlayStation for Sony releasing a PlayStation first party game on their own platform is that Sony gets a 100% cut when they release that game on their PlayStation 5. It is counterintuitive to their business model again. And especially a business model that is financially healthy for them. How do we know that? Because Sony has told us this per their own financial reports, per their own statement that the PlayStation 5 generation has been the most profitable generation ever for PlayStation. Think about that for a second. We know how popular and how well other PlayStation consoles have sold. Okay? And we're the halfway point of the console generation, and PlayStation 5 is already the most profitable. So what does that tell us about the health of the PlayStation 5 business? That it's pretty damn healthy. And so what he's discounting is that they lose money. And not just the 30% they have to share with Microsoft by putting their game on their platform. They lose people buying games in their ecosystem where Sony gets a 30% cut of that. They lose people buying the next DualSense Edge, the purple version. He's not even thinking this through. And I don't know, and I suspect maybe he doesn't understand how the business works. All right, let me play the video here.
And why we're even talking, King and I, isn't because that PlayStation is getting Indiana Jones. That's not the issue, folks.
He also said Xbox looks like the bad guy. That's a weird statement to me, because why would Xbox look like the bad guy? I mean, I don't think Xbox putting Indiana Jones, it makes them look like the bad guy. I think it's a testament, and it's them, not testament. I think it is an example of them pivoting their business model because their current business model isn't working for them, which would make sense because that's what companies do.
The issue is,
and you can still play Indiana Jones on Game Pass. I don't understand how Microsoft or Xbox looks like the bad guy, because they could still leverage the fact that, hey, yeah, you could play Indiana Jones for $70 on PlayStation 5, but hey, our Game Pass subscribers, they pay $20 a month and they get that and 200 something games and other first party games that we publish day and date on that service. I'm not understanding that, how it makes him look like the bad guy. I don't think it does at all.
Is how it was announced. Bad optics, bad messaging, bad marketing seems to be not one but two Achilles heels for Xbox. Like King said,
I actually don't disagree with what I don't disagree with what he said here about bad marketing, bad PR. That has kind of been an issue, a messaging issue with Xbox this generation. I agree with Boom there.
Said when he was doing this live with Attic yesterday, this literally did nothing for the Xbox brand. And the last time I checked, what was sold to me as an Xbox gamer is that Gamescom was going to be for Xbox gamers, not PlayStation gamers. The messaging yesterday was poor.
This is the most sense he's made in this video. I don't disagree with him. I can certainly understand. I've talked to some diehard Xbox fans who have been fans on Xbox, who've been fans for 20 something years, and they feel this way. What he's expressing, they feel like it's not about them anymore. It's about everyone else, and they don't feel like they are important to Microsoft. I mean, there's something to be said for consumers buying exclusive products because they do it, and one of the reasons they do it is because it makes them feel special. You see this with things like Apple, right? You see this in the luxury goods market. You see this with PlayStation. All right, I'm going to go to another video here. This is another Boom video that I didn't disagree with. That I disagree with either as well. All right, let's see here. All right, gonna play this video here. This is Boom talking about Spider-Man. This one's kind of interesting here. Let's play this clip.
Launch on Xbox next year. This is my opinion. I'm not sitting in the room with Hiroki, but if I was, I'd be like, Hiroki, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm an Xbox guy. I have those games. I've platinumed almost 2 of them because I need 2 more trophies and miles. And I'll finish off Spider-Man eventually. I'll rebuy those games. I'm a customer. Sell them to me on Xbox. You know what Hiroki's gonna?
So he's saying now he says in my opinion, which I applaud him for doing that because at least he's saying in my opinion. But I still think there's some foolish commentary here. He's saying that if he was talking to Hiroki Totoki, that he would say, "Hey, I guess the premise of his argument here is that." Of the argument here is that that Spider-Man is just collecting dust. Now, that's not entirely true. If you look at July Circana, Spider-Man 2 was in the top 20 Circana. Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man is also currently on PC now. What is Forte says, do you really think he feels that way? Yes, I do think he feels that way. Yeah, he's not balanced at all, Forte. By any stretch, he is not. He's slightly balanced with a slant toward. No, he's not balanced at all. I disagree with that. I think he is not making rational. He's not having a rational conversation. He's talking about Hiroki Totoki, and he would tell Hiroki Totoki, hey, you know what? Put it on Xbox because I'm an Xbox customer. I will buy it again to and play. I will buy it again and play it on Xbox. Well, here's the thing. Again, PlayStation does not need Xbox to sell software. They don't need to. The Spider-Man as a franchise has been financially successful, has met all of their KPIs, internal KPIs. They don't need Xbox to sell. That game is still selling. At least Spider-Man 2 is. And guess what? If they want to release it and have people play it again, based on what we know about PlayStation, they are going to release it as a remaster on something like the PS5 Pro. But guess what? Now, instead of spending money to port, right? If they have to spend money, and not only that, spend it, and then risk the possibility of people not coming to PS5 because they can get their games on Xbox, as they view Xbox as a true competitor to their console platform, because they are. And we talked about all the things that they lose when someone doesn't come over to the PlayStation 5 if they bring their first-party games to Xbox. They lose money. And so we know what we know about PlayStation is they're going to sit there and say, hey, you know what? Just like Nintendo. Oh, yeah, we got this IP sitting on the shelf. Huh. We're going to package it. We're going to repackage it with slap a little fresh coat of paint on it. Sell it at $50 or $60 a pop. You know, on the upcoming PS5 Pro. And guess what? We keep 100% of that revenue. We don't have to give Microsoft 30%. Oh, I see what you're saying, Forte. You're saying they're trying to. Okay, I see what you're saying. That's a slant to Xbox. They have to make the base feel like PlayStation will do it too. Oh, okay. I agree with you, the Forte. And I think they are. But I also think that is that's disingenuous. That is creating a false narrative. This idea that, oh, well, PlayStation's going to have to do this. No, they don't. Because we know that they don't, because we know how healthy their business is. They don't need Xbox. They don't need Xbox. And if we're looking at the financials, we're looking at the numbers, we know that, and based on Microsoft's own behavior recently in bringing games over to Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, we know that it's actually Xbox that needs Nintendo and PlayStation to have a viable business now. And all this does is create misinformation, disinformation, and feed the console war stuff. Because I'm seeing it. Now people are like, oh, this is the future. What? Oh, oh, Hillary, let me tell you what's going to happen here, Hillary. PlayStation's going to go, Hillary. PlayStation's going to go out there. They're going to put their games on Xbox. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for the American people. I love it. I love it. They're going down this path. The industry's going this way. Really? I'm not seeing any information, any data, any trends that kind of collaborate that that's going to happen. And yeah, let me grab the super chat here. But big shout out to you, Forte. Hey, great DPS, by the way, Forte. Great show the other night. You guys need to check out DPS podcast. They put on a great show every week. Greg, the tech guy with the $5 super chat says, Boomstick is butthurt over Indiana Jones coming to PS5. I don't know if he's butthurt. I think as a fan of the platform, he's upset. I get the sense that like many that I've talked to recently who are diehards on the Xbox platform, they kind of feel a bit slighted. Like some of them feel like Microsoft or Phil Spencer in particular have misled them. But I also think they allow themselves to be misled. In particular, when they huddle up in these Xbox-centric podcasts and bounce all these, crazy narratives off each other, and like, yeah, and pat each other on the back. And a lot of the conversations I hear from them aren't really grounded in reality or any tangible data or any market evidence that shows us that these things are going to happen. It's like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I could point back to the start of this console generation. It was, and Boom in particular and others were like, oh, well, you wait. Xbox Series S is going to even the playing field. Little Johnny and his mom are going to walk into Best Buy and they're going to see a PlayStation 5 and they're going to go to the Xbox Series S because it's the most cheapest console and they have Game Pass. And none of that, I mean, I'm not saying none of that happened. I'm sure little Johnny and his mom did pick up an Xbox Series S and Game Pass, but the impact of that didn't resonate or didn't impact Microsoft standing in the console space the way the way they said it would. They said it was going to be that Trojan horse. Game Pass was going to be that Trojan horse. That the Series S was going to be the thing that's going to be the great equalizer. None of that came to fruition. And how do we know that? We know that because of the sales numbers. And again, I'm not saying this because I'm saying the Xbox is a bad hardware platform to own. If you value the hardware, the Xbox hardware, you like the ecosystem, hey, they're great. Buy it. But be happy with that investment. And sometimes I get the sense that they're not happy, that some of these guys on these shows aren't really happy with their choice. And maybe it isn't about the love of video games so much as about the love of feeling included, being a part of something, feeling important because you're on a podcast, like that. And I have to wonder, maybe it's not about the love of games. But, and I say this, like we say this on the show, two states of beings can coexist. On the one hand, as an Xbox consumer, you can not be happy with the direction of Xbox, but you can also, at the same time, you can also be happy with your purchase and being in the Xbox ecosystem and being part of Game Pass. I think that's the part that people are missing. Yes, while you're not going to have exclusives really anymore, you do have one exclusive, and that's Game Pass. And if you're in Game Pass and that's how you chose to consume your games, and you're getting all of Xbox's first party games, that's all that should matter, really, in my opinion. Let me play the rest of the video here.
Going to say, well, these games, they're just collecting dust. Look, don't be insulted by what I'm about to say, ladies and gentlemen, but here's the truth. Spider-Man 2018, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2 are stacks of newspaper that are sitting in the rain. They're not, people bought them already. No one is rebuying those games on PlayStation. They've taken those games out of their service when Spider-Man 2 launched to make you buy the games again. No one is buying those games. You know who would buy those?
So that's not entirely true. People are still buying Spider-Man. I mean, we saw Spider-Man 2 just charted Circana. People are buying it on PC. People are still buying it on PlayStation 5. So to say that no one is buying it is hyperbole at best.
Games, people on Switch too, people on Xbox. Those are customers.
Again, if people on Switch or people on Xbox want to play Spider-Man, they're going to go out and buy a PlayStation 5. And that's the point too. That goes back to Sony's business model and what they and why they put out high quality content, first party content, because they want to drive people to their platform so that once those consumers are there, it's not a one-off spend and a purchase of a $70 game. It's everything else that person does in that ecosystem. Again, the hardware is a conduit to other revenue streams that Sony makes money off of. And again, this is the most profitable PlayStation generation that they've ever had. This was Sony reporting this. Sony said this. It's not BRAP saying this. Sony said PlayStation 5 is our most profitable console generation ever. So they don't need to put games on Nintendo Switch. They don't need to put games on Xbox because that is counterintuitive to their business model. Again, this goes back to companies have different objectives. Companies have different risk assessments. Or tolerance for risk, I should say. We don't argue that Nintendo should release Mario on Xbox or Sony PlayStation. Although I would argue they should release it on PC so I can get rid of my Switch, but
that Sony doesn't have to, they need to find. That is an absolute fact.
He's saying that Sony needs to find new consumers. And again, the PlayStation 5 is Sony's most profitable console ever. On top of that, there's only a finite group of people that want to play on consoles. The majority of them are playing on the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I know you can emulate it. I know. I mean, so Kawakura, are you saying that they need more revenue streams? All right, so I got a question here. Jonathan Ergus says, Brap, then answer me, why is Sony putting Lego Horizon on Switch? Then if you said Sony doesn't need to put their games on Switch. Let me be specific. I'm talking about their first party big AAA games. This is a licensing deal with Lego. That is different. And Sony has talked about ways of leveraging their IP to gain or to give people more exposure to PlayStation in hopes that those people go to buy PlayStation 5s. So let me be a little more specific there. When I'm saying first party, I'm referring to the big AAA games. God of War Ragnarok is not going to play well on the Nintendo Switch. It is older hardware. And again, this is a licensing deal that they have with Lego. And also, them putting a Lego game, leveraging one of their IPs, doesn't cannibalize or have potential cannibalization effect on PlayStation to their core business. All right, let me finish playing this video here. Switch 2? I mean, Jonathan, we don't even know what the tech. We don't. If you know anything about Nintendo, Nintendo's not going to put a. Nintendo is not going to invest a lot in high end hardware specs because their business model is put out older hardware in the form of a console, which allows them to sell their console at very high profit margins off the bat. Okay. So no, I mean, the Switch 2 is not going to be keeping up with the PlayStation 5 Pro or the PS5. And if you believe the rumors, it's probably more along the lines of a PlayStation 4. But even then, there's a cannibalization effect of putting a one-to-one version, and it probably won't be one-to-one, of their AAA games on Nintendo Switch 2. Like they don't need to do this because their business is healthy. They will put their games on PC because they want to figure out ways. They want to figure out ways to drive people to PlayStation 5. They will license out their IP as a way to drive people into play. And I say license, in this case, Lego. They'll do that. But it's not something they're going to be doing. And who knows? And maybe that changes down the road for them, assuming, the math doesn't math anymore and the juice is worth the squeeze, as we often say on the show. But right now, that's not going to happen. And I say that because if you listen to what Herman Hulse has said, you listen to what the PlayStation leadership has said about the core experience, Sony CEO talking about the core experience of the PlayStation ecosystem, it all centers around the console. Craig the Tech Guy, the $5 super chat. Thank you again, Craig the Tech Guy. Says Sony's making a Zelda movie. Does this mean it's coming to PlayStation? No, it's not. That's a great super chat, by the way, Craig the Tech Guy. Everborn Saga with the $5 super chat. What's going on, Everborn? Says the reality is, by the way, Everborn, I thought what you said the other day on Boom Show was spot on. Spot on. Where you talked about, this is the direction they're heading. We have this thing called Game Pass. And that's the other thing. I understand people because I've talked to a couple of Xbox guys who feel like, yeah, this is crazy. Like, I spent so much money in the ecosystem, and now they're going like, I don't feel like they value me, and it's like, I get that, but there's still value there, especially if you're in Game Pass. Like, I feel like if you were heavily invested in the Xbox ecosystem, and that's where you play the majority of your games. They haven't taken anything away from you per se. You still get those. Yeah, like Slomo says, the exclusive now is Game Pass. You still get that. So I thought it was a great point you made the other night, Everborn, on Boom Show. So everyone's talking about the $5 super chats. Is the reality is Sony has a long road ahead of tapping into PC market before they would even have to look at Xbox. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. All right, let me finish playing this clip here.
That is not being insulting. That is not, piling on PlayStation. They need to find new revenue with old games. They need to find.
What is? Then I would my question to Boone would be what they need to find new revenue based on what? Like how are you arriving to the conclusion that they need to find new revenue on old games? I mean, those games have hit they've hit whatever internal KPI, whatever numbers Sony had, whatever Sony has a number in mind, right? Developer may say, okay, we need to sell X amount of games. We need to hit this certain level of profit margin for this game to be considered a success, right? And Sony has presumably hit those. I mean, so again, this goes back to Sony having their own objectives and key results. They have their own goal setting framework that helps them define and track their business goals. And so it is not without of the realm of possibility that PlayStation has hit those with Spider-Man. And so again, begs the question, why? Based on what? All right, let me play the clip.
Find new customers selling older games that are no longer moving the needle.
The thing is that those games have already moved the needle. And Sony knows that older games typically don't sell at a $70 price point. And if those games, and what they will do though, they'll sell those games to those newer consumers who get into the PlayStation 5 ecosystem will have the ability to play those games, right? And that's where they could maybe see an uptick in sale. But look, I mean, the reality is that, and we've talked about this with Matt Piscatella, games typically have very short tails in terms of their ability to sell, right? It's very rare that a AAA game or a outside of a game outside of a games as a service type game or live service game, those games they have very long tails. It's very rare where you see a game that has had a long tail, where you're going to see. And typically, when you see it, you see the game really not drop in price. Mario Kart 8 might be a great example of that. A game that is sold as Logic likes to say, bonga on Nintendo Switch. Those games typically don't drop in price because Nintendo knows that people continue to buy those games in large enough numbers where they don't need to drop the price. And Sony will look at other ways to monetize even more money through the releases of new iterations or new entries into the Spider-Man franchise. I would imagine it's probably more advantageous for them to do that and get people into the PlayStation 5 ecosystem where they can make more money off of them. Again, the console is a conduit to all these revenue streams. Let me play this clip.
On their platform, those are just 3 of them. And Sony is going to follow, just like they've done time and time again and copy almost verbatim what Xbox is doing. And when that happens, people in this chat that are rah-rah on PlayStation will be like,
yeah, I don't agree with this. They follow Xbox. Let's look back. Okay, so PlayStation had a subscription service, cloud streaming service before Xbox did. Okay. PlayStation had PlayStation TV. PlayStation had a PlayStation app on their Bravia TVs. PlayStation had a portable device. The idea that somehow they copy them that they copy everything Xbox does isn't entirely accurate. And I don't understand this definitive statement that they're going to do this. And so I don't know if it's motivated by wanting people to feel making either himself feel better about what Microsoft's doing, wanting the listeners to feel better about what Microsoft's doing. But I don't see again. PlayStation is in a different position than Microsoft. The reason why Microsoft or Xbox, the reason why they're putting their games on other platforms is because they're having trouble selling games on their own hardware platform and they're having trouble selling hardware and because they've made a tremendous amount of investment in in studio publisher acquisitions. ABK was a big deal. The one thing that I've heard from people who've talked to people at Microsoft is that the ABK deal flipped the math. It changed the math for them. Okay. So it's like you have to understand why Microsoft is doing this. And you have to understand how both companies are in vastly different positions. PlayStation doesn't have to change what they're doing. And they may never have to change what they're doing unless of course, the math doesn't math anymore. Unless the numbers tip in a way where they need to reevaluate their business and potentially pivot. But that's not happening. It's like we have to understand the motivations of why these companies do what they do. They're in different positions of the market. All right. I do want to move on to another topic here. I think did I miss a super chat, by the way? No, I got Everborn's. Craig the Tech. Okay, I think I got. If I missed a super chat, please let me know. By the way, please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. We have like almost 200 people here watching, 52 likes. Please smash that like button if you're new. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. By the way, according to Game Science, Black Myth Wukong, 10 million copies sold amongst all platforms the game released on. Quite as it's a success. I'm enjoying the game. I do have some issues with it, though. It's not a perfect game, but it's a good game. I'll talk about it on Wednesday. All right. There's something else I wanted to discuss here. Talked about this earlier. I've seen some people say that they feel like Phil Spencer lied to them. I don't, like with the whole February thing, like I've seen some commentary that, oh, well, Phil lied when they asked him if Indiana Jones and Starfield were one of the 4 games. He said no. Well, I mean, the question was specifically about the 4 games. And if Indiana Jones was one of the 4 games, it technically wasn't. So I wouldn't say that it was a lie, but where I do think he was a bit misleading is in the like we're going to learn as we go, and I'm paraphrasing. If someone wants to put the exact quotes here in the live chat, I appreciate it, but he kind of said like, hey, like this isn't going to be the norm. I think that's one of the things he said, like, don't expect this to be the norm, but it kind of is now, or it's kind of it seems like it could be the norm now. Now we have the Indiana Jones announcement, and it's interesting with the article with Tom Warren, where Tom Warren interviewed him after the business update meeting in February. And Tom Warren specifically asked him if, hey, is Starfield going to is Starfield going to come to the PlayStation 5? He didn't say no. That would have been an opportunity for Phil Spencer to be like, no, that's not a game that's coming. He skated by that answer and kind of gave a very generic, we're something to the effect like, case by case, or we evaluate, or whatever the case is, whatever he was saying at that time frame in February. So I can understand the misleading piece. People may have felt misled, or because I get some of that, but I think it goes back to the messaging challenges, the marketing issues that Xbox has had this generation. To me, in my opinion, that has seemed to just has plagued them. It's funny. I was talking to Lord Cognito and on a text message. We both said to each other at the same time, they need to rip the Band-Aid off. And I've been saying that for a while now. They should just rip the Band-Aid off, because it seems like, remember they said 4 games. Phil said this is going to be 4 games. Don't get used to this. It was actually 5 games. Now we're getting not Spider-Man. Now we're getting Indiana Jones on PlayStation 5. There was that leak, that posting on Amazon UK. Who knows if that's true? Forza Horizon 5 coming to PlayStation 5 as well. There's still still rumors of Starfield potentially coming. Now who knows if that happens? But I get the sense that and Phil's recent comments, like, we have a business to run. I think Phil's under a lot of pressure. I've never heard Phil refer to the Xbox when he's talking about Xbox. It's like, we have a business to run, and and the bar is high for us to contribute back to Microsoft. And I'm like, yeah, whoa, the bar is high. Well, yeah, I mean, that's not surprising, because you just spent $70 billion in cash for ABK. So yeah, the bar is high. And then minus ABK, your last quarter, your business was negative 4% growth. And your hardware sales are, negative 42%. And that's actually a trend now, declining hardware, because we've seen it multiple quarters now. Again, I said earlier in the show, it's going to be interesting to see if we see decline the Xbox business, or if that's just a blip on the radar. But if that's multiple quarters, that starts becoming a trend now outside of ABK. So I want to play this video here. This is Destin Legary. He says he's not mad that Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation 5, but he feels misled by Phil Spencer. Oh, you know what? I just realized it's not sharing. Hold on a sec here, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I thought I was sharing this clip. All right, give me a sec here. Having some technical issues, unfortunately. All right, let me see here. What the heck's going on? Yeah, no, I wasn't muted. I thought I was playing this clip and it wasn't playing for some reason. All right, here we go. Share this clip here. Des and Legary. Oh, hold on a sec here. All right, here we go.
And that's my reaction to the Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation 5 reveal. Still working through it. This video is a little bit more rambly than my usual ones. But like people are like, oh, look how mad Destin is. I wouldn't say I'm mad, but I think it's interesting that Phil Spencer had an emergency podcast to tell people Starfield and Indiana Jones are not coming to PlayStation 5, only for 6 months later to announce that they're coming to PlayStation 5. And people are like, there's more content. Like, he didn't quite say that. He said they were announcing 4 games today, and it wasn't those today. But in a Verge interview, he said, well, never count them out. It's just like, of course he knew the whole time that the PlayStation version had to have.
That's the Tom Warren interview I was just referencing when Phil Spencer was asked by Tom Warren if like Starfield's ever going to come to PlayStation 5. And Dustin Sinek feels like never rule those out. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Been in development at that point. So we were always marching towards this date. Game company.
And Destin brings up a great point. I mean, that is kind of the part where I feel like they've, that this has been this is part of the issue I have with their communication to fans. And it's that like to Destin's point, you're saying that it's 4 games, not that, don't get used to this as being the norm. Destin referencing the Verge interview where Phil doesn't deny that these games are coming. No, he doesn't confirm either, but doesn't deny they're not coming. But to Destin's point, like this game, this would have been in production already. Spring release day. It's the optics again. It's the communication. I mean, and maybe they're trying to ease people into the idea of, hey, more of our games are coming. I think, honestly, at this point, in my opinion, rip the Band-Aid off, because this is probably going to be a conversation every time a new IP comes out, or every time a tentpole or a first-party IP, AAA IP is announced to come to PlayStation 5. This is kind of going to be the reaction, I would imagine, because it's been the reaction since they're, with the February business update and, the games coming to Switch and PlayStation 5 and now Indiana Jones. All right, let me finish playing the clip here.
Companies don't just hit file save as PS5, file save as Xbox. This is not how it works, right? So, yeah, I feel a little misled by Phil Spencer, not only with the Bethesda statement when he said this is about getting exclusive games and places Game Pass exists, and
it's another that's another example of the bad messaging that Microsoft has had an issue with this generation. To Destin's point, Phil commenting on not Bungie, I'm sorry, the acquisition of Bethesda.
And that didn't happen. And then with the statement that Indiana Jones and Starfield aren't coming to PlayStation 5, I'm not upset, but I do feel misled. And I think a lot of people feel misled also. So I'm seeing a lot of people, I don't know how else to say it. They're coping. They're coping really hard on this one, or jumping up to defend the Xbox brand when they should be asking, what does this mean for that brand into the future?
I don't disagree with what Destin's saying. This is part of my part of where I really disagree with Boom's perspective. I shared his video clips earlier. It's and I hate to use the word coping, but it's almost like I hate that word. But it's like he's having the wrong conversation. And to Destin's point, the conversation should be, okay, well, if this game is being released on PlayStation 5, like what else is being released on PlayStation 5? You know, what's the strategy here moving forward? You know, I think it's safe to assume that there are going to be more games. First party Xbox games are going to be on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo. But I 100% agree with Destin here. You know, it shouldn't be the coping, if you will. I hate that word. But I agree with this point. It should be pointed questions to leadership. What does this mean for the platform? You know, what else is coming down the road? And it's going to be interesting as more Xbox first party games release on PlayStation 5. I would imagine that and you let me know what you think in the live chat, and everyone in the comments section after the show, let me know what you think on this. But if more first party games are coming to PlayStation 5, how much more challenging does it make for Xbox to sell Xbox hardware? Because at that point, the PlayStation 5 almost becomes the de facto console to own if you're a console gamer, because now not only do you get strong third-party support, strong indie support, I would say stronger third-party, stronger indie support. You see what's happening with Black Myth Wukong. It's a very successful game according to Game Science. 10 million copies sold. It's being played by a lot of people. It was in the conversation quite a bit here in social media the last couple of days. Baldur's Gate 3 being another example of a game that didn't release day and date on Xbox, and Black Myth Wukong being another one. So that's, you know, so stronger third party support, indie support, PlayStation first party titles, and now you're getting Xbox first party. Again, like it is the value proposition, or I'd say the value proposition. The PlayStation 5 almost becomes the de facto console to own. And you know, I would ask everyone in the live chat if you think that. I think most would agree. It let me know what you think in the live chat, and everyone later in the comment section below. Do you think that it's going to make it even harder for Xbox to sell hard consoles? Because I think it will. You know, unless those, you know, the releases are staggered in a way where if you're someone who really wants Xbox first party, you don't want to wait, you know, 6 months or a year for those games to come to PlayStation 5. Then yeah, I could see those consumers buying Xbox, but some may say, you know what? No, I can wait. Let me finish playing this clip here.
I mean, they'll make more money for sure. But when you don't need to make hardware anymore and all of your money is coming from your competitors, do you just get out? Like, what's the profit incentive to remain in? And it's a pivotal moment because it is a major Temple exclusive that they went to.
I don't disagree with Destiny, or like, what do you do with hardware now? Like, what does that look like in the future? And I said this earlier, I don't think they're going to exit hardware. They still have Game Pass subscribers. The majority of their Game Pass subscribers are on console. Where do those people go if there's no console? I think the likely scenario, in my opinion, is that they continue making hardware, assuming the numbers change enough where it doesn't make sense for them to do so. But at least for the time being, I see them making hardware. And Logic's talked about this on this show on the past, where he thinks that hardware will be more like a boutique type product. The Xbox will be more boutique type product for them in the way that Surface tablets are.
To Disney, they advocated for getting exclusively. They talked about during the FTC trial about it being exclusive. They came out on a podcast and reiterated that game would remain exclusive at least for 6 more months until they announced it would come to PlayStation 5. And it leaves me feeling less trustworthy of where Xbox is going.
And I have I've heard similar reactions from other diehard other diehard Xbox fans who feel the way Destin does, that they don't trust them. they're uncertain of the future of the Xbox. And I get it. Like because Destin laid out the case here. He gave examples of when they've said one thing and done something else. And that has been a problem they have had this generation. Let's not do that, Venom Quest. We're not console warring here. Let's not do that. I don't always agree with Destin. By the way, I would love to get Destin on the show. He has me blocked. But hey, Destin, if you're listening, unblock me. Let's get you on the show. Love to talk to you about what's going on with Xbox and the industry. We've had your colleague on, Ryan McCaffrey. We've had Ryan on a couple times here on the show. So if you're listening, Destin, we'd love to have you on. So, yeah, I can't say that I totally disagree with Destin here. Slow-mo, that is slander, sir. That is slander. Slow-mo says everyone has Enrique blocked. No, that is slander, sir. Actually, a lot of people do have me blocked. He's not wrong. But yeah, I think Destin makes some really great points here. I really do. There was something else. There was another article. If you guys saw this article by Jason Schreier. Oh, hold on a sec here. I was trying to get Tim Dog on this weekend too, because he's been very vocal about the messaging as well. And he's someone, I mean, if you follow Tim Dog, I've known him for 11 years. He used to talk to Xbox leadership on a regular basis. He used to play on live with Phil a lot. He used to talk to Phil Spencer a lot. I was hoping to get him on to kind of talk about their messaging, because he's one of those individuals who doesn't agree with their messaging and the pivot here. But Jason Schreier put out a tweet this week. He says the problem with Xbox's new vision isn't that the company is moving away from console exclusives. The problem is that the release strategy is messy, confusing, and inconsistent. Just pick a lane. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it kind of goes back to what Destin was saying. The messaging isn't clear and concise. And here's his article. If you haven't read his article, this was actually, I would definitely read it. It's a good read here. It kind of talks about like the, how Microsoft got to this, to the place they're in. Talks about the poor business decisions in 2013 that get PlayStation 4 a huge lead over Xbox One, and how the Xbox has been playing catch up ever since. So, yeah, this is definitely a good read. Definitely check this out. But I don't agree with Jason here. I mean, like, that has been part of the problem. Like the strategy's been inconsistent, confusing, messy. But the communication just hasn't been tight. That Ryan says Jason has me blocked. See, Slow-mo, Jason Schreier doesn't have me blocked, but I think Jason Schreier has you blocked, Slow-mo, if I'm not mistaken. What's up, Otacon Oscillate? All right, we have 214 people here watching. Oh, he doesn't have you blocked. Slow-mo, does anyone have you blocked, Slow-mo? Someone has to have you blocked. I don't believe that you're not blocked. All right, I got 211 people who are watching, 74 likes. So please smash that like button if you haven't done so already. Oh, really, slow mo? Oh man, only I'm not gonna repeat what he said. What is Taco Fest? Forte is Forte. No, I'm about to call Forte and ask him what Taco Fest is. What is Taco Fest? What is that? I don't understand what Taco Fest is. Hey, Slomo, I have I did get a code. Big shout out to Detective Seeds. Gave me a code for Concord on PC. So are you still playing Slomo? Are you playing on PC? I'm gonna download it today. Everyone's talking about tacos now in the live chat. Slomo says, yes, I am. Slomo was Slomo, you were holding your own, I see, in Concord. Yeah, Slomo, I hope you can make the show Wednesday. Miss having you on because I really want to get your insight on Concord since you've been playing it. By the way, again, please go to DPS Damage Per Second podcast. Please support Slomo and Forte. They put on great content. If you're somebody who enjoys first-person shooters, somebody who plays a lot of looter shooters, you should be following Slomo Backslap. He has some great insight into those genres. Oh, Otacon says, dude, 50 plus taco trucks culminate in one area, mechs, wrestling, and dancing. What? So like Lucha Libre? That actually sounds like fun. Commodically inclined says regular streaming services are struggling now. The game industry is built different. In fact, it's built worse for subscription models. I mean, I have to see people, say things like, like talk about like the Netflix of gaming, and I get that comparison, but I think we always have to remember that. What's up, Anthony Dixon? We have to remember too that the consumption of video games is much different than the consumption of regular like TV and television. It's different than television and movies. I mean, interactive entertainment is much different. I mean, it's one of the things that Strauss Zelnick has said. He's presented data that suggests that on average, console gamers will buy like 4 or 5 games a year and spend about 35 to 45 hours in each one of those games. What's up, OBJ to Don? Hey, OBJ, are you ready for the Commanders? Do you think Jaden Daniels is going to be the truth? Is he going to lead us to the promised land, OBJ? But yeah, I mean, it's very different. I mean, it's it's easier to I think and I said this. I think for Microsoft, and when I was talking to Logic about this, we were having a conversation around Game Pass, and he says he believes that episodic content would make more sense on Game Pass. And I said, oh, it's funny you say it because I remember playing Gears Hivebusters, which Gears Hivebusters is great. The Super Bowl. OBJ saying the Super Bowl for the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels. Like the Super Bowl this year? That's aggressive. Lord Metro says the Commanders are trash. Daniels is going to be good. I don't know, Slimo. You said that Carson Wentz was going to be good, so I don't know. But Hivebusters was a great game, and I'm like, wow. And I remember after beating Hivebusters, I said to myself, like, Hivebusters was nice because it felt episodic. It was short, sweet to the point, and I felt like this is the kind of content they should release. Like, I would love that. I didn't say that, Slimo. I said Wentz might be good. I never said he would be good. I said he might be good. I would never lie to you, Slomo. I would never do that, sir. JB5120 says they just traded Jahan Dotson within the division. They did, but I think that speaks more to the fact that they don't think Jahan Dotson's going to be good. You don't trade someone you think is going to be good to a division rival. Slow-mo, look, man. I will admit I got carried away with Stadia. And I don't. Well, but I don't think I did. I say I didn't. I said it could be the future. Slow-mo. Yeah, I see. I see a lot of people pooping on Concord. Last I checked yesterday, it was like a 69 Metacritic after like 5 reviews. I don't know what it is now. Let me double check actually. Concord Metacritic. Oh, based on eight critic reviews, it currently sits at a 66. So probably not the start that you would or reviews that you would hope for in a game, but it's going to be interesting how this game plays out. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of concurrent players right now. I think I saw like 600 and something at one point, and probably not where you want to start out if you're a live service game. It's going to be interesting. Live service games, and I'm not going to completely write Concord off yet because I don't know, because these games can have long tails, right? My assumption, though, is that if the numbers probably don't improve, though, they would pull the cord. But if this game does get a lot of support, and we've seen this with other games like Sea of Thieves, as an example, Grounded as another, sometimes these games find their niche, their footing. And after some time, they Rainbow Six. What's the Rainbow Six one? I forgot. Not Siege. Is it Siege? But like the Rainbow Six game, that's a live service game that didn't release well, wasn't doing well. Ubisoft stuck with it. Now the game's kind of found its niche. But it's going to be interesting, and I think maybe the one challenge it might have with Concord is that it does come with a $40 price tag. And so is it going to, are they going to be able to put out enough compelling content to want to get people to spend $40? I don't know. I think that might be a challenge, maybe, in my opinion. Yeah, Fortnite was a bust at launch. Fortnite is not what Fortnite is today. Fortnite's also free. So again, I'm not completely writing the game off. I'm just saying I think, in my opinion, one of the potential challenges is that it does have that $40 price tag, and it's off to a shaky launch. Reviews, it's only 6 reviews. But the player count's like about 600 something last I saw. So I don't know. Yeah, Kevin George, we're not going to do that nonsense, man. Concord has pronouns here. Deal with that's just stupidity. That's just stupidity. Mary, can you just put him in timeout, or one of the mods, please? Like we just don't do that here. Oh, that's right. Slow-mo. They did pivot Fortnite from $40 survival game to free to play. You're right. I forgot about that. I wonder, Slow-mo, if this game doesn't pick up momentum, if that's something that Sony does. Maybe they pivot. Who knows? We'll see. But I mean, one of the things we talked about in the show when they mentioned they had multiple live service games in production, it was like, okay, they're going to release these games. If they get 1 or 2 of these games to hit, that's probably a success for them. By all accounts, Helldivers 2 has been a huge success for them. What Sam says, bring back SOCOM. I would love to see SOCOM come back. Bring it back. Concord will go PlayStation Plus in a year. I mean, I think one way they could boost those numbers up is probably put it in PlayStation Plus now. Don't know if that would help, but maybe. Well, yeah, Mario. We'll probably get another knack game before we get SOCOM. Big shout out to Falky. I think I woke Falky up this morning. Slomo said it didn't help Foam Stars, but Slomo do you think Concord is that a better game than Foam Stars? Foam Stars never really looked appealing to me. Sam, are you saying Concord is better than Foam Stars? I don't know. All right. Concord current Steam population just 60% more than the live chat. Wow. Slomo has played Foam Stars. He's lying. Don't believe this man. I'm just joking. All right, everyone. Do need to wrap up this BRAP rant. Want to thank everyone for joining the impromptu BRAP rant this afternoon. Thank you so much for the support as always. If you haven't done so, hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And also remember, we do have a BRAP VIP subscription tier at $3 a month. We will those BRAP VIP members get the opportunity to win a free monthly giveaway. It's a game related giveaway. It could be a video game, could be a PlayStation giveaway, Xbox giveaway, Steam, Nintendo. Could be give away those gift cards. So that's one of the perks for being a BRAP VIP member. But no, again, thank you everyone for hanging out with us this afternoon. Really appreciate it. As always, we'll be back Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our regular schedule of BRAP. Please, everyone, enjoy the weekend. I'm going to play some Wukong, some Black Myth Wukong, and hopefully I get to jump on Concord with Slomo, but Slomo never wants to play video games with me. So I might have to hit up Logic. I don't think Logic's playing Concord. Might have to hit up Mooch maybe to play some Concord this weekend. What's up, Innate? Innate, are you playing Concord? Innate, are you there? Innate. All right. I'll have to hit Innate in the DM. But but everyone, please enjoy your weekend if you're playing. All Wukong here. I hear you. But yeah, everyone enjoy the weekend. Have fun. And if you're playing video games, have fun doing so. Remember, that's what it's ultimately all about. Video games is about having fun, period. Don't understand the rage culture around video games these days. I think it's unnecessary. People rooting for games to fail. Let's just enjoy the video games and support the industry we love. So on that note, Slomo says, you're stuck with me, Enrique. Okay, I'll play. Look, man, Slomo, I will play with you because I know if I'm on your team, it's a winning team because you're probably carrying that team. But that's all right. But anyhow, everyone, thank you so much. We will catch you next time. Have a great rest of the weekend.